So,
Okay, so great to have you on the call, Pete. Just wanted to introduce Pete Wilson, who came to me through a friend of mine, actually. Pete runs an online men's group, and he's really passionate about sort of supporting guys and moving them forward with all sorts of subjects that are a bit delicate, really, and sometimes guys find it very difficult to approach these subjects. So Pete's really good at bringing a really open, honest, straightforward approach to real serious matters that men struggle to talk about. So I'm going to hand you over to Pete. He's going to tell us a little bit about his men's group, how he came to this work, and how he can support everybody. Cheers, Pete.
thanks, Glenn. Yeah, wow. So I've got a number of groups on based on Facebook, but the most active is called Men at Heart, which is kind of self-explanatory. The way or why I set it up was because I recognised, having done, like Glenn, quite a lot of own internal work, and a lot of spiritual seeking in different ways and in different traditions. I understood that there's a lot of guys just like me looking for answers, but not being happy with the kind of guru teacher setup thing, or the counselor, or the therapist, even having been to a few therapists myself. So I wanted to create a platform where there wasn't any hierarchy, where it was easy and safe for guys to be able to talk, but also to push them a little bit into examining subjects they wouldn't naturally choose to go into, but probably consciously or otherwise have always wanted to kind of get at. So it's largely relational subjects, and guys like us, guys like me, who've probably been in a couple of long-term relationships, maybe a couple of divorces, and kind of ended up in ending a relationship at the same point each time, not really moving forward, not understanding why, probably blaming it completely on the woman or women in general, but at the same time beginning to understand that maybe I've got some part in that, maybe there's more to it if I dare to look in the mirror and start asking questions. So that's the kind of framework. That each meeting is very simple. It's based on 3 5-minute rounds, 5 minutes per man. And usually, or preferably, it's about 6 blokes. So it's about an hour and a half. So it's not too long. And I've got a stopwatch going, and I introduce each of the rounds. So that usually the first round is very simple. It's an introduction of who are you, where are you, and what single subject is up for you right now or in this week. So that's just kind of a way of settling in or checking in. Then there's the subject. The second round is usually the subject of the day, which I will start my own 5 minutes by explaining and giving my angle on what's happened to me. And I want to underline, it's never about teaching anything. It's not about suggesting even to other guys that this is how you should be living your life. It's more, this is what worked for me, or this is what didn't work for me. And then if there's any teaching or learning to be done, it's by hearing it spoken by somebody else about their own experience. So that's the second. Third and final round is kind of like, if you didn't have time in the previous 2 rounds, or something's occurred to you, or you want to check out, or you want to thank someone, it's for that. And the structure every week is always the same. So it's every Tuesday evening, always the same. So guys get that sense of predictability, safety. Often it's the same guys who come back, so they get to know each other. And I guess what I really, at the end, want to achieve is that every guy that's on the call is in a real live men's group near where he lives on a regular basis, face to face in a physical building. I'm in France, and I don't have that possibility. And a lot of the guys I know well enough are spread out across the world. I would say half of each call roughly are ex-military mates, and the other half are from the spiritual world, and they're spread out all over the place. So online made a lot of sense to me, and it's actually very easy to kind of give guys a sense of this is how it can work with men's work. It doesn't have to be threatening. It's not all tree hugging and men hugs and it's whatever it needs to be. So that guys dare to go along to a real physical meeting somewhere along where they live. So that's kind of the background. I've been running for about 4 years. I usually run it in the autumn, winter, and spring period. And what's kind of very interesting, my wife, Pranaya, she works mostly with women, and she does a lot of women's retreats physically in this house here, and she does a lot of online stuff with women. And sometimes I have her listening to the content of what we're discussing, because it's rare for a woman to kind of hear directly how men have it. They always tend to try and understand men through the perspective of their own relationships, and that's not always a good balanced picture. So it's very useful for me to be able to, I can also hear the kind of things that they discuss with the group, and sometimes even get invited, because I'm the one making breakfast. It's a physical retreat here in the house. I often get as a representative of the 4 men, so it can be very interesting. Lastly, I suppose the one thing I really want to underline with the groups is that I'm from working class background. I'm from a split parentage, divorcees. I'm now in my 2nd marriage. I've lost contact with my own kids, biological children, all of the sort of pitfalls. So I've not had a classical happy childhood or a happy relational life in any way. I've got missing teeth, and I've got tattoos, and I've got hair all over the place. and that's the point, kind of. It's like my aim is to be like the guy next door, or the guy you kind of make down the pub, the kind that you can have a beer with and talk about stuff with more meaning without him getting all freaky and without you feeling uncomfortable. The kind of thing you can carry on the conversation, could be 5 years down the road, and it's still just as valid. So that's the kind of the framework. And I'm very keen nothing to be a kind of, this is a classroom situation. I'm some white clothes wearing guru with fucking shiny teeth and all that. It's just Pete and Glenn or whoever. And it's a lot it's completely free. It's Zoom based, and very interesting. I try and keep a conversation going on Facebook Messenger on the same subject, so that guys who don't want to show up on camera, as it were, can still either contribute by adding to the chat, or they can observe what other guys are chatting about. And I've noticed there's a lot of men are really interested in these kind of subjects, but are not quite ready yet, maybe, to join in any kind of active way. So for me, I've been interested in men's work this last 4.5 years or so. Both of us, my wife and I've noticed there's a definite upsurge in the amount of activity for men, the number of men's groups, and the number of men who are interested in joining the conversation. Because when I came here to this house, it was a lot of women from around the world, really well-educated women who got their shit together, kind of thing, but they were missing their husbands or partners' active participation in the same kind of conversation in their actual lives. So people like Glenn and I are always interested in, how come guys don't join the conversation? So there's like many many reasons why, but I think the biggest one is we generally don't have the vocabulary. We feel uncertain about what we feel, how we want to say it, what we want to do. But by having men's groups, we can start to put word to it. We can start to hear how other guys say things, and maybe exercise in that, having a conversation with the people we care most about. And that's got to be good for our children as well. So that's kind of roughly where I'm at.
That's great, Pete.
What I'm doing.
Yeah, yeah. That's wonderful. I mean, it's great. It's just a really nice insight to your work. And I just have to confirm that although I've been busy and I've got all sorts of different drives and paths that I'm trying to follow, that every time you're putting something on, that when I do have time to get engaged, I always come away where I've really, really, felt a nice connection. I feel like someone's really listening to me and supporting me. And it's a really nice platform just to be able to express, and test your own learning, because, we can all keep reading books about this stuff and gaining knowledge. But for me, there's a big difference between knowledge and wisdom. And I think until you're able to really express and be heard and almost get validation on what you think is knowledge, it's really nice to have a conversation with someone who understands the same knowledge, and then all of a sudden that turns into like a new life skill, like a wisdom, doesn't it? So yeah, it's great. So I just wanted to confirm really that Pete is available on Greenheart Man's workout page. So for any guys that want to go on that page, you're a member, Pete. You're one of 10 other coaches and guys that I really look up to and sort of really respect. And so the idea really is for us to have some really healthy conversations on there. And some of the coaches have said that if any of the guys want private breakout spaces, that they're more than happy to do free coaching with them to help them through any difficulties. Absolutely. So it's a wonderful space. It's difficult getting guys engaged, but hopefully conversations like this with inspirational guys like yourself will encourage other guys to get involved. So thanks.
Well, thank you for creating such a space, Glenn.
Yeah,
really, there's such needed work.
Great. Not a problem. We'll talk soon, huh?
All right. Good to see you, man.